Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, 9th Canto, Chapter 15, Text 41. Ragyo mridabhishuktasya Vido Brahma Vidad Guru Tirta Samsevaya Changho Jahyan Gachuta Chaitanaha Ragyo mridabhishuktasya Vido Brahma Vidad Guru Tirta Sang Sevaya Changho Jahyang Gachuta Chaitana Ragyo Mridabhishuktasya Vido Brahma Vidad Guru Tirta Sang Sevaya Changho Jahyang Gachuta Chaitana. No other chanting? Vaishnavis? Ragya of the king, Murda Abhishiktasya, who is noted as the emperor. Vada, the killing. Brahma Vidat, then killing a Brahmana. Guru, more severe. Tirtha Samsevaya, by worshiping the holy places. Cha, also. Angha, the sinful act. Jahi, wash out. Anga, oh my dear son. Achyuta Chaitana, being fully Krishna conscious. Translation. My dear son, killing a king who is an emperor is more severely sinful than killing a Brahmana. But now, if you become Krishna conscious and worship the holy places, you can atone for this great sin. Purport. One who fully surrenders to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is freed from all sins. Aham tam sarva papebhyo mokshayashyami. From the very day or moment he fully surrenders to Sri Krishna, even the most sinful person is freed. Nonetheless, as an example, Jamadagni advised his son Parashuram to worship the holy places. Because an ordinary person cannot immediately surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is advised to go from one holy place to another, to find saintly persons, and thus gradually be released from sinful reactions. Translation again. My dear son, killing a king who is an emperor is more severely sinful than killing a brahmana. But now, if you become Krishna conscious and worship the holy places, you can atone for this great sin. Om Agana Chimadandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Shrakshurmilitang Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasavi Go Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare. The intensity of Lord Parashuram's activities has just begun. Yet, even at this early stage of, you might say, Parashuram's killing career, his father is imparting Brahmana advice. In other words, it seems the situation still seems to be a family affair. We are Brahmanas, my dear son. What have you done? You've gone over the top. You've exceeded what is necessary by your killing Kartavya Arjuna. In other words, all right, he stole the Kamadhenu, but you finished him off. We're a Brahmana family. Forgiveness is our most prominent quality, or should be. Forgiveness is what illuminates the Brahmana, just like the sun illuminates the universe. This is very interesting because, as I said, Parashuram has just begun. In the next chapter, you're going to find out that Parashuram is going to kill thousands upon thousands of Kshatriyas. 21 times. That means 21 generations. Wipe out one wave, another wave of Kshatriyas has taken birth and achieved stature. Wipe them out 21 times. So here is Jamadagni speaking about just one act of killing, and he's speaking to his son as if his son is a Brahmana. But from all angles, his son is destined not to act as a Brahmana, although he's a Shaktivesh avatar of the Lord. He's meant to display the qualities of a Kshatriya. Indeed, one of the fiercest Kshatriyas in all of existence. Did Parashuram overreact? We have to understand that as a Shaktivesh avatar, he's concerned with something we consider ordinary today. Military buildup. What's wrong with military buildup? We've got to protect our country. We've got to protect our system. I was speaking in Australia 10 days ago, and I kind of shocked the audience by saying, you're horrified by what happened at the end of World War II, Nagasaki, Hiroshima, nuclear bombs destroying the city. I said, guess what? On one nuclear-armed submarine, there are enough nuclear weapons to exceed whatever dropped on Hiroshima or Nagasaki by 2,000 times. Just one submarine. The world wants what is known as the Holy Trinity, the triad, and then supposedly your nation can hold its head up high. The Holy Trinity means land-based nuclear missiles, submarine-based nuclear missiles, and airborne, airplanes, bombers carrying nuclear missiles. If you've got those three, and then you load up the skies with surveillance satellites, you can have a chance to be a real nation. So this is what's going on today. This gospel of the Holy Trinity is also spreading to a certain subcontinent with its nuclear neighbors. All that costs money, but we take it all for granted. We become so conditioned, and therefore we look at Lord Parashuram, oh, the world is overburdened by military strength, but we accept this as a norm. Some years ago, I was explaining here in Mayapur the reality of the cost of the TOVP in comparison to what the world spends on military. We'll take the USA as an example because data is known. Their program, some of you may remember from 2 years ago, I explained, for upgrading the nuclear arsenal. Just fine-tuning, upgrading, and they say it's going to make it safer. 2 years ago, that was going to cost $1 trillion. Now, of course, just like the costs for the TOVP are increasing, the costs for the modernization of the nuclear arsenal are also increasing. Now it's up to $1.3 trillion. You can't conceive of that amount. That's just for fine-tuning and upgrading. $1.3 trillion. It's about 13 to 15,000 Temple of Vedic planetariums. Now, that's not for the whole arsenal. That's just fine-tuning the arsenal to make it safer. Meanwhile, what do nuclear scientists who refuse to shut up, what do they point out? You're not simply fine-tuning the arsenal. You're increasing the killing power threefold. All in the name of protecting freedom, democracy, globalization, free markets. And it's the people who suffer from all this. But we've become so accustomed to it. We think that what we're spending and want to spend for the Temple of Vedic Planetarium is so insurmountable. It's not even a drop in the bucket compared to all the money thrown away in this world. And then you ask yourself, all right, Parashuram is protecting the Brahmanas. What, as Jayadev Goswami points out in his Dasavatar Stotra, the Brahmanas had rebelled. This is why, the Kshatriyas had rebelled against the Brahmanas. This is what set Parashuram off. It's not supposed to happen. We take it as an isolated incident that, all right, Kartavya Arjuna took a Kamadhenu. That's just one isolated incident. No, Parashuram conceded. This is symptomatic. He took the property of a Brahmana. What's happening with the Kshatriyas? They're meant to uphold Dharma by especially protecting the Brahmanas. But we don't accept that anymore due to conditioning. We don't accept the purpose of the government to uphold Dharma. Throughout Bhagavatam, you read of the examples of real government, like King Gaya in the 5th canto. He protected the citizens from crime as ordinarily known. He nourished the citizens, made sure they had enough food. He gave instruction to the citizens, and he himself demonstrated the activities of a Krishna-conscious householder. All while not being attached to ruling, but doing it as his duty. So that all sounds so mythological to us. These Vedic kings, can we really believe that? The lingering doubt that may be there is due to propaganda over many centuries about the status of the Puranas. Yes, you can blame it on the British scholars of the 1800s who found the Puranas to be so unwieldy. There were so many of them. And they also found them to be just mind-blowing in terms of their content. To European sensibilities, the Puranas were just almost grotesque. All these personalities with supernatural powers doing supernatural things. How can India ever be civilized as long as it adheres to such folklore? So the British went on a campaign to re-educate India, showing the way how to subjugate. Because for 200 years, 40,000 British officers and soldiers ruled 200 million people. They understood, if we strike at the Shastra, then we cut out the root of this very stable, consistent civilization. So they did that. Through so many ways, even offering prizes for the best university-led refutations of the Vedas. They ripped the heart out of India. Then you move closer to the 20th century and into the 20th century. Some of India's own leaders, like Dayananda Saraswati in the early 20th century, they're thinking, how are we going to get rid of the British? We've got to bring the Hindus together, but we need a Shastra that is more generic and unifying. And that can't be the Puranas, especially Srimad Bhagavatam. It's got so many things going on. We should turn to the 4 Vedas and the Upanishads, which are more, shall we say, sedate. Brahman, just leave it at that without getting into all this pageantry, all these pantheons, all these colorful tales about, you have Krishna, the Hindu forest love god. You've got Shiva, the god of the ghosts. And you've got all these other minor personalities. How are we going to politically unite India to throw out the British when all this, these kind of shastras just lead to creations of sects? But if we stress the 4 Vedas, if we stress the Upanishads, we've got a chance for it. So this notion, on the one hand, you've got the British with their propaganda campaign. We've got to cut out the heart of India by convincing them their Shastras are myth. You can't take it seriously. Your Shastras are holding you back. And then you've got India's own political leaders who are thinking, focus on the Puranas, especially Bhagavatam. It's not going to do the job. So now, today, as you heard so many speakers before me explain, there's a general notion that these Vedic stories are part of our culture, but they're folklore taught by the grandmothers. Yet we live amidst conditions that anyone with intelligence would find mythological. You have all this nuclear weaponry, even on this subcontinent. So you may say, well, India's got 125 nuclear weapons. Pakistan has about the same. Just a limited interaction between those 2 nations won't affect more than this region. Forget it. It's been calculated that if just out of those 250 nuclear weapons on the Indian subcontinent, 100 are detonated, the whole climate on the southern hemisphere of the world changes. So this is what's going on. Any intelligent person would find that mythological. So you see, Parashuram was zeroing in on the root of the problem. We've got governments, we've got Kshatriyas who refuse to take spiritual guidance seriously. the whole system then of human civilization is going to go off track. But his father, Jamadagni, is imparting family values. Our family is not like that. Our family exercises forgiveness. Where in the world do you see forgiveness being emphasized in terms of global relations and politics? No, it's the opposite. Never forgive, never forget. Pass the rage down from generation to generation. There was some thought amongst the globalists that if you just give people democracy and free markets, they'll become such cooperative citizens and consumers that they won't want all this sectarian strife and arguing and war. They'll just calm down, vote, and buy, and then live happily ever after. Doesn't everyone want to vote? Doesn't everyone want to buy consumer products? That's the job of the government, to provide these things on a global level. People want to be rational. They want to be benign consumers that are wrecking the ecology, but this is what people really want. Now the obvious is coming out. People aren't satisfied by that. People want to be the body because there's been no effort made on a mass scale to purify their hearts. After World War II, there was so much lamentation. Oh, 55 million people died, genocide, this, that. We've got to have human rights. Never again should there be such catastrophes. We're going to make democratic policies the be-all and end-all for the world. Free markets, that'll do it. Then the former Soviet Union fell apart. Aha! This shows the triumph of the democratic free market system. But no one knows how to purify the heart. And therefore, what do you see? Bouncing back, as if it disappeared, which it never did. What's bouncing back is good old-fashioned, I am the body. This is my bodily group. You can call it, with a sophisticated term, identitarianism, or just tell it like it is, it's out and out tribalism. And people are attracted to that because when you think you're the body, tribalism or identitarianism really touches the spot. I am this body. This is my group. I belong to something. My life has purpose. I belong to this bodily designation. We love our own body group, and we hate the other body group. Wow, now I have a reason for living. So that's what's going on. You have to take your body designation seriously. Remember all injustices against your body, not only ethnicity, but also gender, gender preference also. Any injustices, any minimization, never forget. Be proud of whatever material designation you have, and others should recognize it. This is the way for peace. This is the way for satisfaction. The particularity of your body should be taken very seriously, and you should be proud of it and broadcast it. And if others fail to notice your particularity, that's a great offense. And you are the expert on your body, your gender, your gender preference. So therefore, when I'm speaking at universities, especially in USA, I'll always get questions like this, prefaced in this way. speaking as an Irish American gay person, or speaking as this kind of, that kind of. In other words, I am an authority on what I'm going to say because I have a certain body, I have a certain gender proclivity, and therefore you should take seriously what I say. So that if you're going to be fashionable, that's how you begin your question or your assertion. Speaking as a. So I have one devotee, Gita Nagri, who's preaching at a university nearby, Penn State University. And so whenever I was speaking at a big class on race and gender relations, the biggest class in the USA, 500 students, very famous professor. So their whole point in this class is celebrate your identity, your bodily designation. Others should take heed of it and notice. And when we all are conscious of our bodily identity, then we'll get along. What's the history of your body? What has your bodily group been through? What do you consider yourself to be? Let's hear about that. Let's talk about it. So, whenever the questions start coming to me, excuse me, Swami, I am an African American this, or I am such and such that, and therefore what I'm going to say you should take very seriously. I asked this devotee, now you speak, and this devotee, his material lineage is Syrian, African American, and Navajo Indian. and married to a wife who's a Kazakh German. So there he is with his wife and their child. And so I say, okay, his name is Yasadev, do your thing. He says, speaking as a Syrian, Navajo Indian, African American with a Kazakh German wife and a daughter who's a combination of all that five stuff. Because there has been no heart cleansing process, what you see in the world is just the same old, same thing, bouncing back even stronger. Despite notions that we should be democratic, we should be liberal, we should be sympathetic, human rights. No, people want to be the body. And the more you take shelter of the body, the more there is illusion. Religion has not done its job. Religion as ordinarily known. The hearts are not become purified. Therefore, on the one hand, you have an increase in religious fanaticism, and on the other hand, you have an increase in religious apathy. The new doctrine, especially in the first world, is apatheism. Combination of apathy and theism. Apatheism means, God, I never think about it. I'm not for, I'm not against. It's just not a reality for me. Who thinks about that anyway? This is different from ordinary atheism. There are different types of atheism. There's analytical atheism, where you become an atheist by so-called logic and reason. And then there's coercive atheism, in which you live in a regime, in a government that officially is atheistic and makes it very difficult for anyone to be religious. So that's coercive atheism. And then there's what is called organic atheism. Atheism that just springs naturally from your heart. But most people aren't that, who are non-religious. They're part of, what is in many countries of the world, the fastest growing religion, which is the nuns. No religion. Nothing for me. And the atheists don't like that. Look, you should go all the way. Think about it. Be an analytical atheist. But those who are in the apatheistic category, they say, I've got no time to consider whether there's God or not. It's just not relevant for my life. And they don't see how religion has actually changed the heart. I'll tell you a family story, which will be hilarious for those in India and very interesting for those in America. So my mother had strict principles, just like Jamadagni is trying to tell his son, we have a family way. And you've broken that way. So my mother's principles were, if you're going to be successful in life, you have to be an entrepreneur, make the money, you've got to be a scholar, and you've got to be a Christian. And, some of you have heard me say this before, while believing in Jesus, associate with as many Jewish people as possible. So that was her formula for success. So even I was 19 years old, and I was studying away at the university. When I'd come home, I'd have to participate in a sacred ritual. Mother said, no dinner unless all recite a Bible verse. You had to recite a sloka from the Bible. So I was 19 or 20. My next brother was 17 or 18 and a half. And this was 1970 in the USA when there was so much activism, political activism. And so my next brother and I were just saying, Mother, what has this got to do with helping people? What does this have to do with relieving oppression? She wouldn't listen. Nope. You're going to have dinner in this house. You will say a Bible verse before dinner. So my brother, my next brother, he was involved in what's called militant politics. I don't know what the Indian equivalent is. Maybe just the Communist Party in Bengal, or he was extreme left wing. And he would just tell my mother, I am not quoting from that oppressor's religion. He was speaking quasi-Marxist ideology. Religion, the opiate of the people, preventing them from throwing off their chains. So every night was a battle. I keep telling my brother, look, just cool it. Just go along with the show so we can have dinner. But no, Mother would call up from downstairs from the kitchen, dinner time, children. And then my brother would start on his way down from upstairs. My mother would brace for combat. He'd start coming down the stairs singing militant politics songs. Power to the people, power to the people, brown power to the brown people, white power to the white people, black power to the black people. He was not a racist, he was universalist. Power to the people. My mother was just, he would sit down at the table, say your verse. No, I will not surrender to that oppressive doctrine. He said, all right, no verse, no eat. Said, what do you want to do, Mom? You going to starve me, huh? I figured out how to get around it. I found the shortest verse in the Bible. Jesus wept. My mother tolerated it for 3 days and said, oh, that's it. You can say any verse, but not Jesus wept. There was no internet back then, so I spent 5 hours going through the whole Bible, Old Testament and New Testament, to come out with a verse that had no spiritual significance whatsoever in any way, shape, or form. So dinner time started. Okay, say your verse. And the water ran off the altar onto the ground. She was fried. But the worst was yet to come. This was December in a northeast American city, freezing cold. My mother had the bright idea with her children who were in their teens and late teens, we are going to do the Christian equivalent of Nagar Sankirtan. We are going to go house to house in the neighborhood standing in front of each house and singing hymns. and we had to do it. We would stand in front of one house and sing a hymn, and then go to the next house and sing a hymn. This is her Harinam party. Finally, I turned to my brothers and sisters and said, look, while my mother was not looking, I said, let's just start showing her how cold we are, and that way she'll stop. So we all turned to mother and we're so cold, appealing to her maternal instincts. All right, children, just one more house. So this is important in that statistics, at least for the USA, have shown that if you're growing up in a family that's religious in the ordinary sense, you have a 50% chance of being religious when you grow up. And otherwise, your chances are 3%. Now, of course, what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving us is not ordinary religion. So therefore, you can find many devotees from all over the world who grew up in secular families that were not religious. But Jamadagni is letting his son know, you have deviated from our family values. You're not acting as a proper Kshatriya. Let's look at the example of Balaram. Lord Balaram is on pilgrimage. He doesn't want to get involved in the Kurukshetra war. So he happens upon Naimisharanya. There the sages have gathered and they're listening to Romaharshan. Everyone sees Balaram coming and they stand up, they bow, they offer pranams, except Romaharshana. Romaharshana, the Acharyas say, Sanatana Goswami explains, was a great devotee, but he made a great mistake, a great offense. He was sitting so high on his Brahmasana, what we call Vyasasana, sometimes called Brahmasana, that Balaram had to look up to see him. He was way above the other Brahmanas. So Balaram began considering, what is this? Now you might say, it's just a small offense. Maybe Romaharshana was just ignorant or just had a momentary cognitive lapse or something. No, Balaram considered. He is a disciple of Vyasa. He has studied all the Puranas. He has an education in all the Shastra. And this is how he's acting? Obviously, his heart has not become purified. He's like an actor who is reading from a script. That's the value of his Vedic studies. His studies have not transformed his heart. He's just acting out in a role as a learned person. So then Balaram considered his mission. One of my goals is, along with Sri Krishna, is to rid the world of false dharma. This Romaharshana is a fake. So Balaram picked up, as you know, a piece of kusha grass, touched it to Romaharshana, and Romaharshana was dead. He did it quickly, Jiva Goswami says, because he didn't want the sages to object. let me terminate him very quickly. Otherwise, there's going to be a whole debate about it. Obviously, Balaram didn't want to get into that. So there is Romaharshana dead. The sages cried out, "Alas, alas, what have you done? This is not dharma." But they said it in a way that they understood. When we say it's not Dharma, it's because Balaram is above Dharma. But for the sake of the general population, we have to say these kind of things. Balaram, you've done something that's not Dharma. We know that you are Yogeshwara, the master of all mystic power. But please consider, we gave this Ramaharshana the promise of long life, full sensory vitality and energy. But you nullified the benediction we gave him. Balaram said, if you like, I can bring him back to life with full potency, if that's what you want. And the Brahmana said, no. Is there some way to keep your decisive action intact as well as the benediction we gave him intact? So Balaram said, yes. The Father lives through his Son. Let the Son take his post, and the benedictions will be placed upon the Son. As for me, what would you like me to do? The sages told him, you are Lokapavana, the purifier of the whole world. Please consider the well-being of the whole world. Act in such a way, even though you're infallible, act in such a way that others will see the path that an ordinary person should follow. So Balaram said, yes, I can do that. Dear sages, please tell me, because I don't know. Tell me what atonement I should do. So Balaram is placing himself as subservient to the Brahmanas. So, as you know, they said there's this demon, Bovala. And then when you finish off that demon, you should go on pilgrimage for 12 months, visiting all the holy places to atone for your act, although you don't need to atone. This conception that actions have reactions is becoming more and more alien these days. I was talking with one devotee. She was presenting her experiences of parenting. So I showed her an article about how to be a contemporary parent. How to raise your child without any conception of sin, without ever using that word. And still have the child grow up with a good character. How do you do that? The golden rule, treat others as if you in the way that you want them to treat you. But who are those others? What about all human beings, all living entities? How do you apply the golden rule to that? Furthermore, because you're dealing with the modes of material nature, Rajaguna and Tamaguna, you may try to be moral, but because of the effects of the modes of material nature, your morality will deteriorate. Because you'll always find yourself, in Kali Yuga especially, in circumstances that challenge your whatever personal moral standards you have. Our morality is tied to Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Naranam cha naradipa. Of humans, I am the monarch, the chief executive, because the chief executive has the sacred task of protecting the people. Protecting what? Protecting their shopping malls? Protecting their sports stadiums? No, protecting them from lust, anger, greed, madness, envy, and illusion. This can't be done in the present age without the Sankirtan movement. Otherwise, there's no procedure for cleansing the heart. And without that procedure for cleansing the heart, no matter how you try to be liberal, democratic, free market this, moral that, it's going to break down. And that's what we're seeing today. And therefore, you have the citizens of the world caught between, on the one hand, climate change, on the other hand, nuclear weaponry. These are known as the apocalyptic twins. All that's an impending reality, but no one likes to think about it or wants to think about it. I always wonder about something Srila Prabhupada said in 1977. He said, historians will note this time as when the world was saved from the greatest disaster. I never forgot that, but how to apply it? We haven't yet seen the full potency of the Sankirtan movement. But no doubt we are in a very dark time. Nations armed with so much nuclear weaponry freely say, well, what's the point? Because you'll be destroyed, the other party will be destroyed. And they say, well, that's all right, at least we won't go down alone. Yeah. This is the Dharma. So give us trillions of dollars for our nuclear weaponry, and we promise you that we probably won't use it. We probably won't use the weapons. But just give us the trillions of dollars. So what do you have going for you in terms of real human progress? You have fanatical religion, you have body-based religion, and then you have identitarianism, tribalism, with no relation to religion. Just, I am this group, I am... There are 5 things. Class, country, color, culture, creed. These are all upadhis that shift and change all the time. So even materially, just like Krishna says, asmin dehe, within the body, there's a spirit soul, but the body is always changing. Similarly, even these 5 upadhis, these 5 designations, as sociologists point out, these 5 things are always changing. France is known as such a French-loving country. 250 years ago, only half of France spoke French. Your ethnicity changes as you travel throughout the world. I remember 1984, His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj Ki Jai told me, look, you're based in Northern Europe, but we really need persons of color for Africa. I said, okay, Maharaj, whatever you say. So I flew from Amsterdam to Lagos, Nigeria, to help out the mission there. So I walk up to the immigration booth, and at that time I was traveling on American passport, put down my passport. The Nigerian immigration officer looks at the passport, looks at me and says, what are you, Turkish or Sicilian? What you're supposed to be changes in terms of how your income changes, what country you're in, the way people look at you. You can change your creed, just like Haridas Thakur when the Muslims accused him. You're a Hindu. You're a Muslim. How is it you've become a Hindu? He said, well, look, every day so many Hindus are becoming Muslims, so what's the big deal? If one Muslim becomes a Hindu, these things are going on. So even though these externals, these designations are so fluid, we don't think like that because of the way the media works. You just focus on the present moment. What's your class right now? How are you being perceived? What's your color? What's your creed? What's your country? What's your culture? But these things always change. But still, you're being taught to cling to them. And you get a false sense of identity. I have a purpose in life. So this is what's going on all over the world. The tribalism gives life meaning. because there is no efficient process to purify the heart. We have a huge task ahead. Sometimes it's said that everyone likes to do outreach amongst favorable people, but I always like to point out Prabhupada's reverse thinking. He said, the more sinful the people are, the greater the opportunity for service. The greater the opportunity to please Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So I thought that was quite profound. Instead of being discouraged, how will these people ever understand? Look at the money they're throwing away. They're not even aware they're destroying their own habitat and refuse to stop doing something, refuse to stop the whole environmental destructiveness sufficiently. Instead of becoming discouraged like that, we see a huge opportunity for Lord Chaitanya's mercy, Lord Nityananda's mercy, a huge opportunity for us to assist the Panchatattva in this most crucial time, a time in which Srila Prabhupada said historians will note how the Hare Krishna movement made its contribution to save the world from the greatest darkness. In other words, the best is yet to come. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. That's it. It's 9 a.m. All right. Okay. I didn't want to delay my illustrious. Okay.
But you're assuming some ultimate morality, ultimate truth that encompasses all, the whole thing. But it's all relative. That you believe you're a Vaishnava, you believe there's Christian, you believe, well, that works for you. Fine, let it work for you. I'm an Irish, Jewish, Muslim, gay person. I've got my reality, you've got your reality. It's the fabric of life. It's always been there. And you're just trying to impose this, that there's an ultimate morality, ultimate truth, you just relax. I don't buy it. I don't buy into it. You keep your guilt to yourself.
When you acknowledge that there's an ultimate source of everything, why then should there not be ultimate knowledge coming from that ultimate source? As human beings, it's our responsibility to find the greatest and most profound information coming from that ultimate source. So what I explain, especially when speaking at schools in the USA, nowhere in Bhagavad Gita does Krishna ask you to believe in him. As soon as I say that, everyone they relax. But everywhere in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, here is the process. If you follow it, these are the results you get. So I say, isn't that fair enough? You may not want to take up the method. Okay, fine. But the method is there for those who are motivated to follow it. So Krishna's not just saying, believe in me, and that's it. This is what my brothers and I were protesting against our mother, We're just not going to swallow this stuff, We've got serious political, economic issues to deal with, and you're having us singing Christmas hymns in front of houses in the city in the middle of the winter. Forget it. My mother, of course, couldn't respond with comprehensive knowledge. Just the Bible says this is a Christian home. But we have knowledge and the process of verification. You may not want to follow that process of verification, but we have it. Krishna's presenting it. Meanwhile, you are subject to so many delusions which you are not questioning. Can the average person, why average person, even a university educated person, understand fully the global economic system or even the economic system of their own country? What to speak of all the political maneuvers? And they have no idea what the military is doing. Yet, no, I can't accept Bhagavad Gita. No, it's just Krishna saying, and it's all beyond me. Everything is beyond you these days. Everything is so complicated. Meanwhile, the best thing is we put another samosa in your mouth. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Hare.
ओम सर्वकत्रिकाय नमः। ओम शिशुमाराय नमः। ॐ तिलकात्मने नमः ॐ ईशाय नमः ॐ सर्वेश्वराय नमः ॐ विभुवे नमः ॐ भैरवडम्बराय नमः ॐ विद्याय नमः ॐ अच्युताय नमः ॐ कविमाधवाय नमः ॐ अदक्षजाय नमः ॐ अक्षराय नमः ॐ सर्वाय नमः ॐ वनमालिने नमः ॐ वरप्रदाय नमः ॐ विश्वम्भराय नमः ॐ अद्भुताय नमः ॐ भवाय नमः ॐ श्रीविष्णुवे नमः ॐ पुरुषोत्तमाय नमः ॐ अनघस्त्राय नमः ॐ नखस्त्राय नमः ॐ सूर्यज्योतिषे नमः ॐ सुरेश्वराय नमः ॐ सहस्रबाहवे नमः ॐ सर्वज्ञाय नमः ॐ सर्वसिद्धिपदकाय नमः ॐ वज्रदंष्टाय नमः ॐ वज्रनाखाय नमः ॐ महानंदाय नमः ॐ परंतपाय नमः ॐ सर्वमंत्रैकरूपाय नमः ॐ सर्वतंत्रविदरकाय नमः ॐ सर्वतंत्रात्मकाय नमः ॐ अवक्ताय नमः ॐ सुभक्ताय नमः ॐ भक्तवत्सलाय नमः ॐ वैशाख शुक्लाद्भुताय नमः ॐ शरणागतवत्सलाय नमः ॐ उदारकीर्तये नमः ॐ पुण्यात्मने नमः ॐ महात्मने नमः ॐ चंडविक्रमाय नमः ॐ वेदोत्राय प्रभुजाय नमः ॐ भगवते नमः ॐ परमेश्वराय नमः ॐ श्रीवत्संगाय नमः ॐ श्रीनिवासाय नमः ॐ जगद्व्यापिने नमः ॐ जगन्मायाय नमः ॐ जगत्पालाय नमः ॐ जगन्नाथाय नमः ॐ महाकायाय नमः ॐ दीर्घभृते नमः ॐ परमात्मने नमः ॐ परम ज्योतिषे नमः ॐ निर्गुणाय नमः ॐ निकेश्वरिणे नमः ॐ परतत्ताय नमः ॐ परमधामाय नमः ॐ सच्चिदानंद विग्रहाय नमः ॐ सर्वात्मने नमः ॐ धीराय नमः ॐ प्रह्लादपालकाय नमः ॐ लक्ष्मीनृसिंहाय नमः ॐ जदक्षरं परिभ्रष्टं मात्राहीनं च यद्भवेत् पूर्णं भवतु तत्सर्वं तत्प्रसादात् सुरेश्वर। जय नरसिंहदेव भगवान की, भक्त श्रेष्ठ बल्लाद महाराज की, निताय गौर ब्रह्मण।
हरे कृष्ण। Namaste Narsimhaya